Today in Algebra 1 we learned about graphing functions. We've talked about this before, but today I want to go into a little bit more detail. Specifically, part A for today is how to graph when you are given the domain. I've written the steps out to the side for us here to look at, and if we're given the domain, here's what we're going to do, and then I'll walk you through an example of that. First, you're going to solve for y in the equation. So, for example, number 1, if negative x plus 2y equals 6 is the problem that you're given, and the domain is negative 4, negative 2, 0, and 2. Okay, we've got all of our information. So, step 1, solve for y. To get y by itself, I'll notice it's being multiplied by 2 and subtracted by x. So I'm going to add the x first. 2y equals x plus 6, or 6 plus x, either way is fine. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And y is equal to x plus 6 all over 2. Okay, I've done that. I've solved for y. Now, plug into x to get xy. What x's do I plug in? The ones from my domain, because remember, domain just means x. I'm going to make a 3-column chart, x work and xy. The x values come straight from the domain, negative 4, negative 2, 0, and 2. My work column is where I plug in my x value to my equation. So I have negative 4 plus 6 over 2. That's the first one. Negative 4 plus 6 is 2. Over 2 is 1. So my value is negative 4, comma 1. The second one, I'm going to plug negative 2 in for x. Negative 2 plus 6 over 2 equals 4 over 2, which is 2. The next one, 0 plus 6 over 2 is 6 over 2, which is 3. And lastly, 2 plus 6 over 2 is 8 over 2, which is 4. So my last point is 2, 4. Now, I've got 4 points. I'm going to make a graph here. Looks like if I go 4 each way, that should be enough. And I'm going to graph my points. Negative 4, 1, negative 2, 2, 0, 3, and 2, 4. And you'll notice that I'm not connecting my points here because my domain is specific, my range is also specific, and so this graph is discrete. That was step 3, graph and don't connect, which is what we've done here. Part B for today is just graphing in general for all real numbers, or that means when we're not given a domain. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick some x values. I'm going to suggest that you pick negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2 when you don't know what else to pick, because that's a good place to start. You don't have to pick those. You can pick any number that you want, but it'll be easier if you'll pick these. Then you're going to find your xy pair, you're going to graph, and you're going to connect this time. So, for example, number 2, I'm going to give you the equation y equals 2x plus 1. Some of them on your homework will have f of x right here, which you already know how to handle because f of x just means y. Okay, we're going to pick some values for x. We're going to do our work here in the middle, and then we're going to write our xy pair. For x, I suggested, remember, that you pick these values, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. I'm going to plug those into the work column. So I do 2 from here times negative 2 plus 1. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, plus 1 is negative 3. So my first pair is negative 2, negative 3. My next one, 2 times negative 1 plus 1. I'm getting this value from here. I'm getting this equation from here. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, plus 1 is negative 1. Plug in 0. 0 times 2 is 0, plus 1 is 1. I plug in 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And I have 5 ordered pairs, which will give me a pretty nice graph. I'm going to go about 4 or 5 each direction. And graph my pairs. Negative 2, negative 3, negative 1, negative 1, 0, 1, 1, 3, and 2, 5. And this time I am going to connect my graph because I could have picked any values. And so everything in between applies as well to this. And that's my graph. This time it is continuous. And that was it for today's lesson. The assignment is A5. It's page 256, numbers 1 to 6. It is only 6 problems, first 4 are like part A in your notes. The last 2 are like part B in your notes. Good luck, and let me know if you have questions.